I stood in the kitchen, the scent of roast chicken still lingering in the air as my son's laughter echoed down the hall. My hands trembled, not from the heat of the oven, but from the weight of the betrayal. The meal I had spent hours preparing, tossed without a second thought. My son, who I'd given everything for, had just shown me exactly what I meant to him. And that was the last meal I'd ever feed him. All right, before we dive into this crazy story, do me a favor, subscribe and tell us where you're watching from. The skin had crisped to a golden crackle, its scent steeping the kitchen in warmth and thyme. Carla Morton had basted the roast chicken every half hour since noon, each brushstroke deliberate, mashed potatoes, whipped smooth and buttery, green beans snapped fresh and sautéed with slivered almonds. She even folded the napkins, something she hadn't bothered with since Roger died. It was supposed to be a dinner, not a celebration, just decency. Her son Kevin and his wife Rachel said they'd be home by 6. At 6:10, Carla glanced at the clock and turned down the oven. At 6:40, she reheated the potatoes. By 7:20, she was seated at the table alone, staring at an untouched plate across from her. The front door creaked open at 8:03. Kevin strode in first, reeking faintly of beer and expensive body spray, the kind he always claimed someone else paid for. Rachel followed, scrolling on her phone, purse slung over her shoulder like she owned the house. Kevin caught a whiff of roasted garlic and let out a snort. "You actually cooked? Thought we were past that." Carla said nothing. She just stood, hands folded neatly in front of her apron. Rachel glanced over the table. "We picked up Thai." "Sorry." Kevin didn't even hesitate. He reached out, lifted the heavy roasting pan, and with one sharp jerk, dumped the entire chicken into the kitchen trash can. Bones cracked on impact. "Smelled dry anyway," he muttered, grabbing a soda from the fridge. Carla didn't flinch, didn't gasp, didn't raise her voice. She walked over, knelt down by the trash, and gently lifted the pan back out. Bits of stuffing clung to the bag, some juices soaked into the paper towels beneath it. She didn't save the food. She wasn't hungry. She was remembering. The last time she'd made this meal, Roger had kissed her temple and called it Sunday love on a plate. Kevin had skipped that dinner too. She washed the pan without a word. The silence stretched long into the night, broken only by the clink of dishes and Rachel's giggles from the guest bedroom, her bedroom. Later, after they'd shut their door, Carla sat on the back step with a chipped teacup of chamomile and stared out across the dark yard. The cicadas buzzed low, the neighbor's wind chime offered a brittle little tune, and every part of her body ached with the weight of a thankless house. By morning, the smell of the ruined chicken still lingered. She didn't air it out, let it hang in the air. At 10 a.m., Doreen Case pushed open the side door like she always did, her house call knock as she called it. With her usual sunglasses perched on her head and a bag of jelly donuts in hand, she froze the moment she saw Carla sitting at the kitchen table with nothing but a cold cup of coffee in front of her. "You look like someone kicked your cat and stole your pension." Carla gave a slow blink. "They threw out my roast. Picked up Thai on the way home." Doreen frowned, setting the donuts down with a thud. "What roast?" "The roast I spent all day making." Doreen sat across from her. "Carla, honey, you okay?" Carla didn't answer right away. She reached for the sugar jar, then changed her mind and pushed it away. Her fingers trembled slightly. When she spoke, it was low and clear. "They've eaten their last free meal under my roof." Doreen's eyes narrowed, jaw locking into something fierce. "It's about damn time." Carla stood and pulled the trash bag from the bin, tying it tight. "It's not just the food, Doreen. It's everything. The lights they don't pay for. The internet they drain. The laundry they dump in my basket. The way they walk through this house like I'm lucky to have them." Doreen let out a long breath. "So what are you gonna do? Boot 'em?" Carla gave her a look that stopped the room. "No, I'm going to bury them. The right way." For a second, Doreen said nothing. Then she reached into her purse and pulled out a business card, sliding it across the table like a poker chip. "Call Edmund. He bankrupts bullies." The chairs in the legal rescue of Ohio clinic creaked like bones, each shift echoing in the low-ceilinged room. Carla Morton sat upright in one of them, hands folded neatly in her lap, a manila folder balanced on her knees like a sacred text. Her fingers, spotted and stiff from years of diner work, gripped the corners with calm precision. Across from her, Edmund Valerio adjusted his glasses and looked up from her intake form. His office wasn't fancy: white walls, an old desk and a tiny window half frosted with sun damage. But his posture was sharp, his tone measured, and his eyes alert behind those frames. "I'm going to ask you a few uncomfortable questions," he said. "Is that okay?" Carla nodded once. "Ask away." He glanced down at her form again. "Your son and daughter-in-law, Kevin and Rachel, they've been living with you since April?" "March." Carla's voice was steady. "Told me they needed a few weeks to get on their feet after his contract work dried up." "It's August. Have they paid you anything toward rent, groceries, utilities?" Carla gave a tight smile. "They bought a six-pack once. Left the empties in the sink." Edmund paused, lips pressing into a line. "And they've used your address for mail?" "They get packages daily," she said, pulling a crumpled photo from her purse. "Look, that's 6 boxes in one day. Rachel's got some online boutique. She says it's business. I say it's delusion." He took the photo and studied it. "What about debts? Have they used your accounts?" Carla opened the manila folder. Inside were carefully paperclipped statements, loan records, and one grocery receipt with lipstick scribbled over the total. She laid them out like puzzle pieces. "This one's a joint credit card Kevin asked me to co-sign for 5 years ago. I thought it was paid off. It's not. He's been using it. Quietly. Minimum payments when he remembers." Edmund's brow furrowed. "And this one, Rachel used my Macy's card to buy gifts for the house. The house never saw any of it." He leaned back. "They've buried you in their lifestyle." Carla met his eyes. "And I'm ready to dig them out." That got a faint smile from him. He reached into his drawer, pulled out a form labeled Chapter 13 Watch List, and began scribbling notes. "We can't force them into bankruptcy directly, but we can expose everything they've hidden: income, assets, fraud. Kevin's been underreporting. Rachel's spending beyond her means. We make the court notice." Carla nodded slowly. "He's got a side gig detailing cars for cash. Thinks I don't know." "Perfect," Edmund murmured. "And we'll start with the debts in your name. That co-signed card makes you a creditor. If we file properly, and we can prove abuse of your identity, the court can press fraud charges. That gives us leverage." She reached back into the folder, hands moving with a quiet vengeance. "These are the online orders she's made in the last 2 months. I matched the emails with tracking numbers. All sent here." Edmund blinked, impressed. "You've done your homework. I was married to a truck dispatcher for 37 years. I know how to track things," Carla said, a flicker of pride flashing across her otherwise steely face. Just then, the door cracked open. Doreen leaned in, sunglasses still perched on her hair. "Brought coffee. Black with 2 sugars, just like your attitude." Carla took the cup with a small smile. "He's good, Doreen." Doreen arched a brow at Edmund. "You better be." Edmund raised both hands. "We're not just cutting them off. We're cutting them out." By the end of the hour, Carla had turned over everything: photocopies of eviction letters Kevin had once received, Rachel's faux business receipts, and a screenshot of a Venmo transfer Kevin made to someone labeled Fixer Joe. She didn't know what that was, but Edmund said the IRS might. He gathered the files into a growing stack and snapped a paperclip across the top. "Next steps: I'll begin assembling the complaint. If they've filed for aid or relief under false pretenses, the state can come after them too." Carla stood, the chair groaning beneath her. "I want this done right. I want it to last." He nodded, voice low. "It will." Back at the house, Rachel sat cross-legged on Carla's living room floor, scrolling through a pile of opened mail she wasn't supposed to be reading. She lifted a bank envelope, with Carla's name printed clean across the top, and slowly unfolded the statement. Her eyes flicked over the numbers, then narrowed at a highlighted charge for legal rescue, bankruptcy services. Rachel turned toward the hall and whispered sharply, "Kev, come here." He emerged, shirtless, beer in hand. What now? She held the paper up like a smoking gun. She's planning something. The fridge door clicked shut, followed by the rasp of a metal chain slipping through the handles. Carla Morton looped the padlock closed with the precision of someone who'd done far more complicated things in silence. The clang echoed in the kitchen like a final verdict. The pantry door was already bolted. She left a single note taped to the front of it. Not your mother's grocery store. She stood still for a moment, eyes roaming over the kitchen that once fed so many Thanksgivings and grief dinners. The same linoleum, the same cracked counter tile by the sink. But something in the air had changed. No cinnamon in the corner, no coffee brewing, just the cold smell of lemon cleaner and old battles long overdue. Upstairs, a door slammed. Kevin's voice boomed across the hallway. What the hell? Seconds later, his heavy footsteps thundered down the stairs. You locked the fridge? Are you out of your mind? Carla didn't flinch. She wiped her hands dry on her apron and faced him. I stopped buying food, she said plainly. If you want groceries, go buy them, like grown-ups do. Kevin's nostrils flared. I've been busting out there, Mom. You know I've been doing detailing work. Cash under the table isn't a job, Kevin, Carla said, eyes sharp. It's a hobby that ruins upholstery. Rachel drifted into the room barefoot, her phone already recording a video. This is abuse, she muttered, panning the camera across the locked fridge. Elder neglect, maybe even dementia. You're starving us and you think that's normal. Carla calmly walked past her, opened a drawer, and pulled out her burner flip phone. She pressed record without saying a word. The tiny red light blinked like a heartbeat. You think you're clever? Rachel snapped. You could lose this house if someone finds out what you're doing. I've already found someone, Carla said softly. And he's better at paperwork than either of you. Rachel's face twitched. You're unstable. No, Carla said, her voice flat. I'm awake. Kevin threw his hands up. This is insane. You're sabotaging us. You want us to starve? She took a step forward, pointing to the chain. You've got money for sushi, for gas, for fake nails and fancy belts. But no one's bought a carton of eggs since June, except me. So yeah, Kevin, what you eat next? That's your problem, not my pantry. He opened his mouth again, but she walked away mid-sentence, burner phone still recording. Later that night, Carla emailed Edmund the recording. The voices were clear, the threats, the accusations, and Rachel's phone recording everything like some twisted insurance. Edmund replied within the hour. Subject, documentation received. Message, harassment noted. Drafting cease and desist. You're doing everything right. Keep your phone charged. She plugged it in next to her reading lamp, just as Doreen texted. Still alive. Carla replied, hungrier than them. The next morning was glass quiet. Carla sat in her robe, sipping instant coffee. The sun hadn't fully climbed yet, but the house felt stable. For the first time in weeks. Until the doorbell rang. Sharp, official. She opened it to find a uniformed officer. Tall, clean-shaven, with a clipboard and a look of quiet weariness that only small-town police wore well. Morning, ma'am, he said, tipping his chin. Officer Todd Ellery. Her eyes flicked down to his badge, then back to his face. Can I help you? He held up the clipboard. We got a wellness complaint about the property. Said there might be signs of neglect, possible unsafe conditions for elderly residents. She blinked, just once. I am the elderly resident. He scratched the back of his head. Mind if I come in anyway? Officer Ellery stood in Carla Morton's living room, boots still damp from morning dew, clipboard at his side. The space smelled faintly of lemon cleaner and old wood, but there wasn't a dish out of place or a speck of dust on the mantel. Carla watched him scan the room like he expected a hidden crime scene. She didn't offer coffee. Not this time. You said someone made a wellness report, she said, arms crossed. Ellery gave a small nod. Said an elderly woman might be suffering neglect, or displaying erratic behavior, and the call came from this house. He hesitated, just for a breath. The number's untraceable, but I'm guessing you've got your suspicions. Without a word, Carla walked to the hallway closet and pulled down a slim blue file. It had a Velcro strip that rasped loudly as she peeled it open and withdrew a single crisp document. Deed, she said, holding it up. Paid off 20 years ago. Roger and I signed the final check the same week our grandson was born. His name's not on it. Neither is Kevin's. This house is mine. Legally. Entirely. Ellery took the document and examined it closely. You keep it handy. Carla smirked. Not until recently. He nodded. Professional but a little warmer now. Then I can say this plain. You can kick out anyone you want. You don't need a reason, just proper filing. Especially if they don't pay rent. They haven't paid for a thing, she replied. Not in money, not in kindness. As if summoned, Rachel appeared at the top of the stairs in a tank top and pajama shorts, coffee mug in hand. She looked like she'd rolled out of a magazine shoot for inconvenient guests. What's this? She called down. Feigning casual. Officer Ellery turned slightly. Neutral? Just responding to a wellness call. Rachel grinned tightly. Well, we're all doing just fine. Maybe Carla just overreacted again. Carla didn't even blink. Did you call this in? Rachel widened her eyes in mock innocence. Of course not. We're family. Those words, "we're family," hit Carla like ice water, not because they were true, but because they were so tired, so overused. We're not family, Carla said, her voice even. We're roommates. I didn't agree to. Rachel's smile vanished. You'd really throw your son out? Over groceries and bills? Officer Ellery cleared his throat. Ma'am, I'll note everything seems in order. No further action needed. But if you decide to pursue formal eviction, I can recommend a filing process through the county. Carla offered a small nod. Thank you, officer. I'll be doing that today. By late afternoon, Carla sat at her kitchen table across from Edmund, who had driven over in slacks and a crisp shirt that somehow managed to avoid a single wrinkle in the August heat. We'll start with a 30-day notice to vacate, he said, typing quickly. But given the lack of any lease or payments, you'll have grounds for an expedited process if they refuse. I expect they will, she replied. Doreen let herself in mid-sentence, holding a bag from the hardware store. I brought the new locks. Grade 2 deadbolts, like you asked. You ready? Carla stood. I've been ready for years. By sunset, the locks had been swapped. Rachel's key no longer turned, and Kevin's truck sat idling in the driveway with both of them pacing like animals outside a fence. Don't think this is over, Kevin shouted. You're making a mistake you'll regret. Rachel added, voice dripping sarcasm. You'll die alone, Carla. And don't think we won't tell everyone what you did. Carla stood in the front window, arms folded. She didn't wave, didn't argue. She just watched the trash take itself out. Then her phone buzzed. Text message, Toledo Community Bank alert. Your account ending in 9,821 is now overdrawn. $374.92. Her stomach dropped. She hadn't used that account in over a year. She opened the app, fingers trembling, and there it was. Charges to a gas station, a vape shop, and a payday loan service. Her eyes froze on the last note in the transaction history. Payment to joint card, Kevin Morton, auto pay enabled. Edmund's jaw tensed as he turned Carla's manila folder around to face her. The late afternoon light from his office window slanted hard across the paperwork, turning ink to blood. This isn't just co-signed debt, he said, tapping the page. This is fraud. Carla adjusted her glasses, squinting at the header. Premier One Rewards Platinum, account holder, Carla Morton. Below it a $9,112.67. Balance stared back at her. I never opened that card, she murmured. I don't even know this bank. Edmund pointed to the digital application date, 3 months ago. Your signature's a scan. Whoever did it lifted your name from a previous file, probably one of the old co-signed statements you handed me. Carla's stomach turned cold. Kevin, she said flatly. Or Rachel. They have a printer. A scanner. They've been through my documents. Edmund gave a slow nod. And they used your good credit to blow nearly 10 grand, all while living under your roof rent-free. Carla's hands clenched in her lap. What was it used for? He slid over the expense breakdown. $1,900. Luxury Luxe Jewelry Boutique. $500. Shopify subscription annual. $3,400. Bulk inventory shipping. $1,200. Branding and influencer services. $50. Custom thank you stickers. Carla laughed. Just once. It was dry and sharp. Rebranding. She barely has a brand to begin with. I've seen worse, Edmund replied. But rarely this bold. He handed her a pen. We file identity theft immediately. The debt gets frozen while the fraud investigation proceeds. But I'm also tagging this under bankruptcy abuse and credit misrepresentation. That fast tracks us through the system. Carla took the pen without hesitation. Her signature, the real one, slid across the affidavit with a slow surgical calm. Back home, she began gathering evidence with Doreen at her side. Boxes cluttered the porch and Rachel still hadn't bothered to change the shipping address. Carla stepped around them like corpses. Each one had her name, Carla Morton, with a return label from Rachel's ridiculous online store, curated Karma by Rack. Let's document, Doreen said, snapping photos with her phone. Close-ups, date stamps. Let the court see what these two parasites dressed their scam in. Carla nodded, then opened her own camera app. They moved through each box, item by item: rose gold chains, faux leather purses, bright pink girl boss signage. God help us, Doreen muttered. She thinks this is entrepreneurship. Carla's jaw clenched. She thinks I'm the investor. By evening the photos were filed, the affidavit uploaded, and Doreen had set up a burner resale profile. Let them watch you resell their junk, she said, typing in the first listing. Same way they watched you cook their dinners. Carla's eyes lit with something between vengeance and peace. Later that night, Carla's phone buzzed with a new email from the Ohio Department of Job and Family Services. Subject: confirmation of employer address. Kevin Morton, business listed. Morton Auto Services. Residential zoning flagged, address used. 129 Willow Street. Primary residence. Carla blinked. He'd used her house again, and claimed it as his business location. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She simply forwarded the email to Edmund with the subject line, "Let's bury them in truth." The clipboard pressed against the glass like a threat. Carla's fingers hesitated on the curtain as she looked through the narrow slit. Young guy, khakis, windbreaker with a state seal, and the patient plastic smile of someone about to deliver bad news and paperwork. She opened the door a few inches. "Can I help you?" "Ma'am, I'm from the Ohio Department of Job and Family Services," he said, voice polite but clipped. "We're following up on a flagged unemployment claim made under this address. For a Kevin Morton. Is he home?" Carla's expression didn't move. "No, but I am. And that address is mine. The only business here is my breakfast and my books." The man looked briefly surprised. "So you're saying there's no auto detailing business registered here?" She stepped aside and waved a hand through the doorway. "You see a driveway full of cars. Any signage? Business license taped to the window?" He blinked. "No, ma'am." Carla handed him a printed copy of her deed, and the notarized affidavit Edmund had prepped 2 days earlier. "I've already submitted this to my attorney. You'll find that I've been dealing with identity abuse by the same man since March. He doesn't live here legally anymore, and I'm filing eviction paperwork. He used this address without my consent." The agent nodded slowly, taking it all in. "We'll update our report and open an investigation into the claim. Thank you for your time." As she shut the door, Carla didn't smile, but her shoulders sank just enough to exhale one long, steady breath. By noon she was back in Edmund's office. He tapped on his keyboard with calm urgency. "They're digging their own hole. Now that we've logged the address misuse, we're tagging it to the ongoing bankruptcy filing. It's federal fraud when you falsify business information under oath." She handed him a small manila envelope, notarized affidavit, with the time-stamped ODJFS visit. "Also this." Edmund raised a brow as he pulled out 3 envelopes, all marked return to sender. Each one opened and resealed with cheap glue. What are these? Mail that wasn't for me. My name was scribbled over someone else's in Sharpie. I didn't notice it at first, but I have a porch camera now. Caught Kevin fishing mail out of my box last week before I got home. Edmund leaned forward. Tampering with federal mail. That's a separate report. I filed it with Officer Ellery this morning, she said. He started the paperwork before he'd finished his coffee. Edmund allowed himself a rare, slow grin. You're building a wall of paper they can't climb. I'll bundle all of this into the fraud packet. This strengthens our petition for debt reversal, and if the court bites, gets Kevin's entire bankruptcy petition thrown out. That evening the house was oddly still. Even Rachel's usual stomping and passive-aggressive door slamming had faded into silence. Carla sat in the den, sorting receipts by the sound of the cicadas outside. Then came the voice. You're ruining our future. Carla didn't even look up. Rachel stood at the edge of the hallway, hair frizzy, eyeliner smudged, barefoot and red-faced. You've poisoned everything. Do you realize that? Carla set the receipts down with care. No, I'm cleaning what you poisoned. Rachel's fists clenched. Kevin's getting notices now. The labor office is calling. You're turning this house into a courtroom. Carla stood slow and measured, walked until she stood only inches from Rachel, the scent of overpriced perfume mixing with sweat and desperation. I gave you food. I gave you shelter. I gave you time to figure it out. You gave up on us. Carla's voice dropped, low and final. No, I stopped the theft of me. Rachel stepped back like she'd been struck. At 9:47 p.m., Carla's phone lit up. Edmund had sent one line. Bankruptcy case under review. Possible dismissal for fraud pending. Carla stared at the screen. No smile, just that steady burn inside her chest. A warmth not of revenge but of reclamation. The rev of an engine cracked through the morning stillness like a blade. Carla froze mid-pour, hot coffee steaming up from her mug, as the unmistakable sound of Kevin's dented silver SUV pulled up beside the curb. She peered through the lace curtain and watched him climb out, grinning, whistling, cocky. Behind him a maroon sedan waited. He popped the hatch. From it he pulled a yellow detailing bucket, a hose attachment, and a bag of off-brand car wax. Within 5 minutes, he had the sedan foamed and dripping. The woman in the driver's seat sat scrolling her phone, oblivious. Carla's hands tightened around the mug. He hadn't bought groceries in 4 months, hadn't helped pay a single utility bill, but he had business cards now. Doreen arrived 15 minutes later, holding 2 sausage biscuits and a camera slung around her neck. Front row seats? She asked, eyeing the car in the driveway. Carla handed her a coffee. He thinks I can't see it. He doesn't even wipe his own messes off the porch. Doreen crouched near the hedges, camera lens peeking through. Let's give the court a panoramic. They filmed everything. Kevin spraying water without a runoff tray, rinsing suds directly into the street drain, no business permit sticker in sight. The customer handed him a folded bill, which he stuffed into his cargo shorts before slapping a bumper sticker on her trunk. Morton Mobile Detail. Precision in motion. Jesus, Doreen muttered. He even made himself a tagline. Carla didn't laugh. She just stared. That afternoon, Edmund added the footage to the file. Unlicensed business activity, he muttered, reviewing the video. Cash earnings, no tax documentation, using a residential address zoned for non-commercial use. That's 3 violations in 1 day. Carla nodded. And there'll be more. He works every Thursday and Saturday, like clockwork. Then let's make time his enemy. Edmund replied, clicking save. Rachel, meanwhile, had discovered her own method of fighting back, Instagram stories. Each post was laced with teary eyes and carefully posed chaos. Dishes piled in the sink. Staged a locked fridge door with a dramatic filter. A caption that read, "Elder abuse is real. Pray for us." Carla screenshot every one. Quietly, carefully. She made a folder labeled Rachel, False Claims. When Rachel's posts escalated into veiled threats, Carla installed a porch camera. Doreen helped mount it just above the doorframe, angled slightly to catch both the steps and the street. The very next morning, Rachel stomped onto the porch, shouting into her phone, "I don't care if it's fraud. She's throwing us out while she hoards her dead husband's money like a troll under a bridge." Click. Uploaded. Cataloged. Carla brought it to Officer Ellery the following day. He sat quietly in the station, watching the clip on her burner phone. When it ended, he looked up, dry as sandpaper. "She's got a flair for drama. She's got access to my mailbox and my banking history," Carla said flatly. "I'm done hoping it dies down." Ellery handed her a clipboard. "Then here's how to start filing for a protective order." It arrived 3 days later. Not a check, not a threat, not another empty promise. A formal notice, folded into a stiff legal envelope, with Kevin's name in embossed ink. Notice of contested eviction filing. Small Claims Division petitioner, Carla Morton respondent. Kevin Morton hearing date 2 weeks from service. Carla stared at the signature scrawled across the bottom. Kevin had lawyered up. The courthouse smelled like paper, floor polish, and stale anxiety. Carla Morton stood outside the hearing room, dressed in her best press slacks and a blue cardigan Roger had always said brought out her eyes. She wasn't nervous. Not anymore, she was focused. Edmund stood beside her, reviewing a last stack of documents, timestamps, photos, audio files, and screen grabs. "This isn't a court, it's a performance," he muttered. "The key is to outscript him." Carla gave a small nod. "Don't worry, I've memorized my lines." They stepped inside just as the bailiff called the docket. Morton Vive Morton. The irony didn't miss Carla. Same last name, but no relation left worth saving. The courtroom was half full, just enough people to feel like a stage. Doreen sat in the back row, phone in hand and a soda the size of her attitude. She gave Carla a quick thumbs up. Kevin wasn't there yet. The judge, a middle-aged woman with salt and pepper hair and eyes like steel wool, adjusted her glasses and looked at Carla. "We'll give the respondent 5 minutes to appear before we proceed without him." Carla sat down, calm as stone. 4 minutes and 58 seconds later, the door banged open. Kevin stumbled in wearing wrinkled slacks and a too-tight blazer that still had a security tag hanging off one sleeve. He held a coffee in one hand and nothing else. "No lawyer?" the judge asked dryly. "I chose to represent myself," he replied, flashing the smug half-smile Carla had grown to despise. "Then let's begin." The first 20 minutes were Edmund's. He didn't waste a second. He walked the court through the eviction filing, Carla's deed, the unpaid debts, Rachel's spending, the fraud claims, the porch cam footage, and the forged credit card statement. Then Carla stepped up. She handed over a list of every expense she had covered, every lie they'd told, every receipt she'd saved. She spoke evenly, eyes steady on the judge's, not Kevin's. When it was Kevin's turn, he launched into a theatrical defense, waving his arms as he painted himself as a caring son, blindsided by an unstable parent. He claimed Carla had lost her grip on reality, that she'd fabricated evidence out of spite. He gestured to the court camera, almost like it owed him sympathy, but he had no paperwork, no witnesses, no lawyer, just a sweat-stained shirt and rehearsed indignation. When the judge interrupted him, "And your documentation of shared expenses," Kevin opened his mouth, then closed it. "None?" she asked again. He shifted. "It's been a hard year." "Indeed," the judge replied. "Especially for Miss Morton, who appears to have carried the full weight of your hard year." She glanced down at her notes, then lifted her gavel. "Eviction granted. You have 5 calendar days to vacate the property. Non-compliance will result in forcible removal." Bang! Kevin's mouth fell open. Rachel, who had just entered the courtroom halfway through the ruling, let out a hiss like a tea kettle. Outside the courthouse, the explosion hit. "You're all corrupt," Rachel screamed, shoving past the reporters and attorneys in the hallway. "This is elder abuse in reverse. You think she's some saint? She's a bitter, controlling. Phones came out. Doreen, already filming, slowly turned her camera. And there it is. Rachel turned on her. You think this is funny? Doreen didn't blink. I think you're going viral. Kevin stormed down the steps, kicking at the concrete. You think this is over, Mom? You just made enemies. Big ones. Carla walked right past him, calm, upright, victorious. She didn't say a word. That evening, Doreen posted the courthouse clip to the neighborhood forum under the caption, "Trash belongs at the curb." The video had 3,000 views in 4 hours. At 9:03 p.m., Edmund's phone buzzed with an email from the federal court system. He forwarded it to Carla with no subject line, just a single sentence highlighted: Kevin Morton's bankruptcy petition, dismissed due to evidence of fraud and concealed assets. Carla tapped the subject line again. You think you won? She didn't open the attachment. Not at first. She forwarded it straight to Edmund, added a note, "Just in case this is a stunt," and powered her phone off. She wasn't afraid of Kevin's digital tantrums anymore, but she wasn't stupid either. The next morning, Edmund called, voice tight with restrained energy. Forget the attachment. I've got something better, he said. Kevin didn't just hide assets in his bankruptcy claim, he lied outright. He got a $6,000 tax return 2 months before he filed, and never disclosed it. Carla didn't say anything at first, just listened as the low hum of her fridge filled the background. You sure? She asked. Dead sure? Edmund replied. He deposited it into a secondary account under a name variation, probably trying to keep it off radar. But Venmo tells a story. He started sending little payments to friends and contacts the same week. I pulled public screenshots. Receipts, printed and prepped. I'll need your signature to attach them as third-party supporting evidence. Carla already had her purse in hand. Be there in 20. Edmund's office smelled faintly of toner and peppermint tea. He slid over a packet of highlighted printouts, Venmo usernames, notes like truck wax, loan repayment, beer run, cash trade. Carla's eyes stopped at one memo, split from refund. The amount? $1,200, sent to Rachel. Of course, she whispered. Edmund leaned in. That ties her to the unreported income. She accepted funds tied directly to the tax return. That's complicity, not just freeloading. I don't want revenge, Carla said, setting the packet down. I want accountability. I want the lies to stop collecting interest in my name. Then this is the moment, he replied. IRS is being notified. You've done your part. Now let them speak for you. The investigation moved fast. Within days, Carla received a call from a federal caseworker, asking to confirm the mailing address Kevin had used. Her home. She answered with clipped precision. No, he does not reside here legally. No, he does not operate a business from here. And yes, I can confirm he opened and accepted federal funds using this address fraudulently. She hung up without an ounce of guilt. By the end of the week, the neighborhood whispers began. Kevin's detailing gigs disappeared from social media. His mobile number stopped working. Then came the first crack. At the strip mall laundromat, Carla overheard it. Rachel, loud and bitter, pacing near the dryers on her phone. I told you not to use my damn name, she snapped. You knew what they'd find. You think I'm gonna get audited now too? Carla didn't turn around, just folded her towel one last time, placed it gently in the basket, and walked out with a silence sharp enough to cut bone. But that silence didn't last long. Just past midnight 3 nights later, someone banged on Carla's back door. 3 hard, angry knocks. She opened the curtain. There was Rachel, barefoot, wild-eyed, eyeliner smudged, her fist clutching her phone like a weapon. You're going to destroy us, she hissed, her voice cracking under rage and fear. Carla didn't flinch, didn't stand, didn't answer. Instead, she reached for her phone, thumbed the porch camera app, and hit record. Rachel appeared on screen in a frenzy, barefoot again, sweatshirt hanging off one shoulder, mascara streaked in the glow of the porch light. She shouted words Carla couldn't hear clearly through the door, but the fury painted her face loud enough. Come out, Carla. Be a damn woman about this. she shrieked. You think you're safe behind a door? That court won't protect you forever. Carla zoomed in slowly, then tapped save. The knock turned to slaps, then silence. Carla stood, walked to the deadbolt, and locked it again, quiet, firm, final. The next morning, Edmund met her at the county courthouse. She handed over a flash drive with the full video and the corresponding timestamps. Harassment? He asked. Persistent, late night, aggressive, Carla replied. He slid her a form. We'll file the restraining order today. It'll be temporary for now, but if she shows up again, it becomes permanent. You're doing the right thing. I know, she said, without blinking. He tapped the folder beside him. Also restitution. We're formally pursuing recovery for the credit card fraud, identity misuse, and the damages from the forged tax data. It's going to court next month. You'll be notified within the week. Carla exhaled slowly. Good. Let it all be public. That same afternoon, Doreen showed up with a toolbox and a tray of gas station donuts. I brought reinforcements. You brought processed sugar, Carla said with a faint smile. And emotion-light, Doreen grinned, holding up a new security fixture, 2 flood lamps and a daylight sensor. No more shadow games. And while I'm at it, I'm swapping the deadbolt. Grade 1 this time. Reinforced plate. Let her scream at steel next time. Carla stood at the door, watching as her friend worked a drill like a woman possessed. The buzz of it echoed down the block, but Carla didn't care who heard it. Let the whole street know she wasn't folding. A week passed with silence. No knocks, no new packages, but Carla noticed Kevin's online trail vanishing. His detailing page was wiped. The Facebook rants were gone. Even Rachel's overfiltered mental health journey posts had dried up. Word through the neighborhood grapevine trickled in. Kevin had been spotted at a Greyhound station with a duffel bag and a hoodie pulled low. Carla didn't believe in rumors, but she believed in patterns. They were retreating, but not surrendering. The certified letter arrived on a Friday. Plain white envelope. No return address. Just Morton in thick type and a stamp from Cleveland. Carla opened it on the porch, sun catching the sweat along her collarbone. Her hands moved slow but firm. Inside, notice of collection. Total balance due $14,893.17. Creditor Cloverline Lending Services. Debtor Kevin Morton. Co-signer Carla Morton. Her stomach turned. The loan was one she hadn't seen before. A personal loan taken out last year, her name listed in fine print at the bottom. She flipped the page. There, in blurry black and white, was a signature she hadn't written, but it was hers, or a version of it. She took out her phone and photographed every inch of it. Then she called Edmund. New debt, she said. One I never touched, and they want me to pay it. His voice on the other end didn't waver. Then we fight it. This isn't over, it's building. Carla's jaw clenched as she stared at the now shadowless porch. Then let it build. The law firm's letter sat on the counter, edges curling from the afternoon heat. Carla stared at it while the kettle whistled behind her, sharp, urgent, but ignored. Pay or be pursued. 10 days. She turned the stove off, poured the hot water into her mug, and picked up the envelope again. The page felt heavier than it should have. Maybe because she knew it wasn't just about money. It was about what they thought they could get away with. She called Edmund. No hello. Just they think I'll pay. His voice was cool. Then we'll show them you won't. By the following Tuesday, Carla sat across from Edmund in his office. She slid over every document they needed. Her ID, notarized denial of the forged loan, screenshots of the previous fraud filings, and a copy of the restraining order. Edmund tapped the folder twice and said, We're filing for debt reassignment under Ohio Revised Code 2307.60. When fraud is proven, we can shift the debt back to the party responsible. And Kevin will be liable? Carla asked. He nodded. In full. No more middle ground. And if Cloverline still tries to pursue you, we'll counterclaim under financial abuse statutes. Carla leaned back in the chair. I'm not just cutting them off anymore. I'm cutting them out. The next stop was the bank. Carla stood at the counter of Toledo Community, with Doreen beside her like a bulldog in sunglasses. The clerk, young, nervous, tried to smile through the paperwork. "You're requesting to close all legacy joint accounts." Carla handed over the notarized affidavit. "Every one, joint savings, emergency card, that auto-pay debit line from 2019. All of it." "Understood," the clerk said. "Do you want to leave a note on file for the co-owner?" Carla's voice didn't shake. "No, he'll get the message." Doreen leaned in. "If he doesn't, I've got a Sharpie," and his face still blocked on Facebook. 2 days later, Carla sat at her kitchen table drafting a new post for the Old South Toledo Community Board. She wrote slow, choosing every word like it might one day end up in a courtroom. "If you have aging parents or relatives, check their mail, ask about shared accounts, watch for small charges that grow fast. Financial abuse doesn't always come with a ski mask. Sometimes it shows up at your door asking for dinner." The post went live at 3:12 p.m. By nightfall, it had 92 shares. 4 people messaged Carla privately. One of them attached a photo of her daughter's boyfriend, Rachel, working behind the counter at a strip mall vape shop. Carla didn't respond, but she saved the image. The caption under the post read, "Said she was framed, still owes me $600. Just sayin'." Then the first real crack of justice arrived. Kevin's paycheck. What was left of it was finally hit by the court's garnishment order. 25% docked immediately. Filed and frozen. The message from Edmund came with a timestamp and a PDF. Subject: wage garnishment confirmed attachment. State Order Morton. Kevin. Carla opened it, skimmed the legalese, and caught one line in bold: garnishment set to continue until full restitution is met or balance is paid in settlement. She exhaled slowly. Not joy, not relief, just confirmation. The wheels had finally caught. The next morning, a plain envelope arrived in her mailbox. No threats, no warnings, just one check. Drawn from State of Ohio Civil Restitution Fund. Amount $2,395.68. Memo. Partial restitution. Case #C of 81 fraud. The paper was clean, official, and real. Carla held it in both hands like it might evaporate. Then she walked inside, stood at the kitchen counter, and slid it under a magnet on the fridge. She didn't deposit it. Not yet. This wasn't about the money. It was about the line it drew. Proof she was no longer the victim of someone else's debt. Doreen walked in with grocery bags. "You look like you just won the lottery." Carla smiled. "I got my own name back." That morning she stepped out into the August sun with a tote bag full of groceries, fresh produce, canned goods, pasta, rice. She parked in front of the Toledo Family Shelter and walked it in herself. "Name for the donation?" the front desk clerk asked. Carla smiled. "Rachel Morton." The woman blinked. "Would you like a receipt?" "No," Carla said. "But maybe send her a thank you note. Let her know someone finally gave back." 2 days later, Doreen kicked open Carla's screen door carrying a cooler, a Bluetooth speaker, and a tray of mini cobblers. "I present to you," she said, dropping everything onto the porch table, "the first annual Freedom from Parasites picnic." Carla laughed from the doorway. "Is this a celebration, or a declaration of war?" "Why not both?" Doreen smirked. "You got restitution. Kevin's paycheck is bleeding into court accounts. Rachel's stuck folding hoodies at a discount shop. Honey, this is your emancipation barbecue." Carla grabbed the lemonade pitcher. "Fine, but we're doing grilled corn. It's symbolic." "Symbolic of what?" "Resilience," Carla said, setting it on the table. "It survives drought, fire, and even pests." They toasted over lemonade and potato salad while cicadas hummed in the trees. Edmund arrived an hour later, quiet as ever, holding a Tupperware of deviled eggs and a 6-pack of root beer. "You came," Carla said, clearly surprised. "You invited," he replied. Then, after a pause, "You played the long game, Carla. Not many people your age could have held the line through all this." She looked at him, soft and honest. "I was taught that if you keep your house in order, nobody can shake your foundation. Turns out that's not always true." Edmund nodded. "But you rebuilt. And now you've got paper, proof, and a porch that's yours again." Carla smiled, glancing at her new fridge through the window, stainless steel, energy efficient, with a freezer that actually sealed. A new lock on the front door. A solid dining set she picked herself. No dents, no hand. She finally allowed herself to sit down and just be. That night, after the dishes were washed and the citronelle candles burned out, Carla checked her email before bed. There it was. Subject: woman to woman from Rachel Morton. Time: 9:26 p.m. Carla, I know you probably hate me, but this has gone too far. Kevin's unraveling, and I'm scared. We weren't perfect, but you've humiliated us publicly. Please, let's talk. Just you and me. No lawyers. No police. Just women. Please. Carla read it twice. Once with fury, once with something closer to amusement. She clicked reply. Paused. Then typed one line. Talk to my lawyer. She hit send, closed her laptop, and turned out the light. The knock on the door wasn't aggressive or frantic this time. It was formal. A single deliberate knock. The kind that said, "This is it." Carla opened the door and found a courier standing under the eave, clipboard in hand, envelope held tight. Miss Morton? Yes. He handed it over with a neutral expression. From the Franklin County Clerk of Courts. Certified delivery. Carla closed the door slowly behind her, heart steady. She walked to the kitchen, slipped the envelope open with a butter knife and unfolded the thick white paper. The ruling was typed in bold. Final order. Fraudulent bankruptcy petition dismissed. All debts reinstated under debtor Kevin Morton. Notations of fraud recorded on federal financial record. Her eyes moved lower. Rachel Morton, named in civil suit for willful financial deception. Court finds sufficient evidence of complicity in identity, misrepresentation, misuse of funds, and unjust enrichment. Damages awarded to Carla Morton, $14,893.17 in restitution plus $6,200 in legal fees. She didn't laugh. She didn't cry. She exhaled. It was done. Edmund arrived an hour later, his brown satchel slung over one shoulder, sunglasses still on. Carla opened the door for him and gestured toward the kitchen. It came, she said simply. He pulled out his own copy from the bag. I figured, we got confirmation on our end too. Everything held. He slid the ruling across the table toward her. It was embossed, sealed, and real. The stamp at the bottom caught the sunlight like a badge. I'll keep the original, Carla said, reaching for her framed restitution check above the table. But I'll be framing this one too. Edmund gave a rare smile. You earned this one line by line. I didn't just beat them, she said. I documented every inch of their destruction. He nodded. And now you'll never have to again. The phone rang not long after Edmund left. Carla Morton, she answered. This is Officer Ellery. Just calling to confirm, there've been no additional reports of harassment or trespassing from the Mortons. None. Just a quiet front lawn and a cleaner mailbox. Good, he said. I got word Kevin might be out of state. Sounds like he's headed west, looking for a clean start somewhere with fewer records. Carla didn't respond right away. Doesn't matter where he goes, she finally said. The paperwork will always follow. Ellery chuckled. That's the truth. Just wanted you to know, you're off our radar. Hopefully for good. Thanks, officer. She hung up. Later that evening, Doreen showed up with a cherry pie and a bottle of cheap sparkling wine. You here? She said, already pulling glasses from the cabinet. The local paper's running a story on small-town fraud victim. Guess whose name might show up if I happen to drop a note to the editor? Carla raised a brow. Let's not gloat. Doreen popped the cork. Honey, this isn't gloating. This is dessert. They poured the glasses and sat at Carla's new dining table. Solid oak, seat 6, every leg level. Doreen took a bite of pie, grinned. Now that's a final course. The next morning, a cream-colored envelope slid through the mail slot. No stamps, just a name handwritten in black ink, Carla Morton. Inside was a letter on letterhead, Toledo Alliance Against Financial Abuse. Dear Miss Morton, we followed your legal case and public education efforts with great interest. You've shown uncommon courage and clarity through a complex ordeal that affects far too many. We would be honored to have you speak at our upcoming Financial Abuse Prevention Seminar as a keynote guest. Your story can empower others to stand up and fight back. Please let us know if you'll accept." Carla stared at the letter in her hands, the paper thick and smooth between her fingers. Not a threat, not a bill, an invitation. To turn her pain into someone else's weapon. She stood, walked to the fridge and slid the envelope beside the check. Side by side, history and opportunity. One earned, one offered. She reached for her phone. The click of Carla's heels echoed down the marbled corridor of the Toledo Civic Center. She walked slowly, deliberately, a folder clutched to her chest, each step balanced like a signature on court paper. She wasn't dressed for pity. She wore a crisp navy blazer, pressed slacks, and the same gold pin she used to wear at the diner before her shifts. It wasn't armor, it was history. Inside the main hall, rows of chairs faced a simple wooden podium, framed by two soft glow stage lights. A modest crowd was already forming. Social workers, paralegals, journalists, a few suits with clipboards, and rows of students taking notes. Carla took a deep breath backstage as the host approached her with a small mic. "You ready?" the woman asked, adjusting the lapel. Carla met her eyes. "Been ready since they tossed my dinner in the trash." When Carla stepped to the podium, the room quieted on instinct. She opened the folder but didn't look down at the pages. Her voice, warm and firm, carried through the mic without trembling. "My name is Carla Morton. I'm a retired waitress, a widow and a woman who nearly lost everything because I trusted my son." There were no gasps, just the stillness of truth being spoken plainly. She didn't dramatize. She didn't blame. She laid it out like receipts. The co-signed debts, the fake businesses, the late-night threats, the forged signatures, and the courtroom days where she stood alone. They called it family. I called it fraud. And when I finally said no, I didn't just close the fridge. I opened a case. Somewhere around the fourth row, a woman in her 20s was already wiping her cheek. Carla saw it, but she didn't slow. This wasn't about revenge. It was about identity. Mine. And how long I let others treat it like a checkbook they didn't have to balance. The applause didn't come at the end of her story. It came in the middle, when she held up a copy of the restitution check, framed with the court ruling beneath it. I didn't fight them in silence. I documented. I reported. I learned the laws they hoped I'd never read. And now I use those same laws to help others. She ended with a small but final nod. Don't confuse quiet for surrender. Sometimes it's just preparation. Silence. Then thunder. The applause shook the room, not out of politeness, but from something that felt like release. After the seminar, a young woman approached Carla with hesitant steps and trembling hands. "I just wanted to say thank you," she whispered. "My brother did something similar to my grandma. No one believed her. But now," her voice cracked, "now I have proof. Because of you." She pulled Carla into a hug before she could speak. Doreen caught the moment on video, camera in one hand and a half-eaten granola bar in the other. "Got it," she said, grinning. "That's going up tonight." By sunset, the clip was live on Carla's new blog, Dishes and Debt. Her first post was titled, "How to Cook a Roast and a Legal Strategy at the Same Time." It had 423 views in the first 3 hours. The comment section wasn't full of likes, it was full of stories. People sharing their own betrayals, recoveries, and quiet victories. Carla didn't moderate. She just read, one by one. A week later, she sat in her garden trimming back overgrown hydrangeas when a neighbor walked up with a clipboard. "Carla, some of us were talking. We'd like to nominate you for the neighborhood community board. No pressure, but, well, you've clearly got a knack for fixing broken things." Carla blinked, hands still in her gloves. "I've never run for anything." "You don't have to run," the woman smiled. "Just keep standing the way you do." Carla nodded slowly, the words warming in her chest. That night, after a cup of chamomile and a long look at her framed check, Carla opened her laptop to draft her next blog post. A notification blinked at the top of her screen. Kevin Morton has sent you a friend request. Her finger hovered over the button for a moment. No emotion, just awareness. She clicked block without hesitation, and closed the laptop. The smell of rosemary and lemon floated through the kitchen like a slow dance. Carla opened the oven door gently, the heat blooming around her face. There it was, the roast chicken. Golden, crisped just right on the skin, juices crackling in the pan. She took her time plating it. She sliced clean through the breast, layered the meat over a mound of mashed potatoes with roasted carrots curled at the edges like flames, a sprig of thyme for color. Then she lit a single candle in the center of the table. No guests, no voices waiting in the hallway, no stomping upstairs, just one chair, hers. The table was set for peace, not company. She sat slowly, napkin across her lap. Nat King Cole hummed low through the Bluetooth speaker, unforgettable, melting into the soft candlelight. She took the first bite without a word, no apology, no tension, just salt, warmth and victory carved into the meat. Halfway through the meal, the door creaked open. Doreen stepped in without knocking, holding a foil-covered pan. Her lipstick was slightly crooked, and her hair tucked into a sloppy bandana. "I know what you're thinking," she said, lifting the foil with a flourish, "and yes, it's peach cobbler, fresh, store-bought crust. Don't judge." Carla laughed, standing to grab 2 dessert plates. No judgment, just timing. They sat across from each other, the candle flickering between them. Doreen took a bite and groaned. "God, I missed quiet. This your celebration dinner?" "It's not for celebrating," Carla said softly. "It's for remembering what the table's supposed to feel like." Doreen set down her fork and nodded. "Then let's remember." After Doreen left, Carla returned to the kitchen and rinsed the last dish by hand. The water was hot, the sponge soft from use, and it all felt still. Her phone buzzed on the counter. She dried her hands before picking it up. From Edmund Valerio's subject. Final disposition filed, case closed. Full restitution processed. All judgments finalized. "Congratulations, Carla, you won." She didn't smile immediately. Instead, she leaned against the counter, staring out the kitchen window. The hydrangeas were in bloom again. She reached for the mason jar vase on the windowsill and filled it with new wild flowers from the yard, yellow, pink, and one stubborn sprig of lavender. She placed it in the center of her table. No place cards, no compromises, just color and grace and the scent of something earned. Later that night, she opened her laptop. Her inbox was full. Subject lines like, "Thank you for your courage. Your story saved my mom, and how did you stay so strong?" Carla read each message slowly, replying to the ones that felt raw and real. The ones that sounded like someone who'd been quietly eaten alive by someone they once fed. She signed every reply the same way. "You're not alone. Keep your paper trail. Keep your peace." She clicked over to her blog. A new comment had been left under her last post. "Your silence didn't break you. It became your sword." Carla leaned back, closed the laptop and let herself breathe. The candle had nearly burned out, a tiny wick still pulsing. She poured the last of her tea, set her hand over the folded napkin beside her, and looked around the room. This life, that she had fought like hell to reclaim. She smiled, not because of what she lost, but because of what she now refused to let back in. "They threw away my meal, but I made a banquet out of the silence they left behind."